We are going to make and build a ballroom, which they've wanted for probably 100 years at the White House. And it'll be a world-class, beautiful ballroom.
For 150 years, presidents, administrations, and White House staff have longed for a large event space on the White House complex that can hold substantially more guests than currently allowed.
This is going to be one of the best anywhere in the world. There won't be anything like it, actually.
I mean, it was pretty big before, so we seem to do okay as a country with it. Trump announced he was going to do that at the end of July. It was set to cost $200 million, which he said he would get from private donors, including Comcast, the current parent company of our network. Now, the cost has already swelled to $250 million. And by the way, no one talks about this when they report on this, but I just have to point out, there's a law in the books. It's from the 19th century. It's been updated multiple times. It's called the Anti-Deficiency Act, and
Okay, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you, this is one of those moments where you just have to ask yourself, what country are we even living in anymore? The President of the United States, Donald Trump, just told 6 members of Congress that they committed, and I'm quoting here, seditious behavior, punishable by death. Yeah, you heard that right? Punishable by death. And now Capitol Hill is absolutely erupting. Democrats are screaming that this is an impeachable abuse of power. They're demanding action. They're calling Capitol Police. They're talking about removal from office. And here's the thing. This isn't some random tweet from 5 years ago. This happened this week, November 20th, 2025. The sitting president of the United States looked at 6 Democratic lawmakers, people who serve in Congress, and said they should be arrested, put on trial, and potentially executed for treason. Come on, are you kidding me right now? And what did these 6 Democrats actually do? What was their crime? They made a short video. That's it. A video reminding military service members that they have a duty, a legal obligation, to refuse unlawful orders that violate the Constitution. That's literally what they said. If someone gives you an illegal order, you don't have to follow it. That's not sedition. That's the law. That's what every single member of the military is taught from day one. But Trump didn't see it that way. He saw 6 Democrats, all of them with military or intelligence backgrounds, by the way, and he decided they were traitors. He decided they deserved death. And then, because apparently that wasn't enough, he started amplifying posts on Truth Social that said these lawmakers should be hanged. Hanged. This is wild. This is absolutely wild. So now we've got Democratic leaders, Hakeem Jeffries, Catherine Clark, Pete Aguilar, putting out joint statements calling these posts disgusting and dangerous death threats against members of Congress. They've contacted the House Sergeant at Arms. They've reached out to Capitol Police. They're treating this like exactly what it is, a threat to the safety of elected officials. And you know what? They're right to be worried, because we've seen this movie before. We know what happens when Trump points his finger at someone and calls them a traitor. We know what his supporters do. We saw it on January 6th. We've seen the death threats. We've seen the pipe bombs. We've seen the violence. This isn't hypothetical anymore. This is real, and it's happening right now. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money.
Yeah, it reminds you of money, right? Who is paying for it, after all? Are we sure all that money is going to be tracked carefully? This is, of course, how a monarch acts, right? And this is just one small but very illustrative example that absolutely pales next to Trump's most kingly urges, like, for instance, and this is not hyperbolic, the urge to kill anyone he wants, anywhere, anytime.
So, the question everyone is asking, what is Congress going to do about it? Well, Representative Al Green from Texas has already announced he's going to file articles of impeachment against Trump before Christmas. Again, this would be the 5th time Democrats have tried to impeach Trump. And Al Green is saying this is a litmus test. This is the moment where every single member of Congress has to decide, do they stand with democracy, or do they stand with a president who threatens to execute his political opponents? Because that's what this is about. That's the real story here. We're not talking about policy disagreements anymore. We're not debating tax cuts or immigration reform. We're talking about the President of the United States using the language of treason and death against members of Congress. We're talking about a fundamental breakdown of democratic norms. We're talking about whether or not it's acceptable for the most powerful person in the world to threaten to kill people who disagree with him. And yeah, the Republican-led House probably isn't going to vote for impeachment. We all know that. But that doesn't mean this doesn't matter. Because history is watching, the American people are watching, and every single lawmaker is going to have to go on record about where they stand. So, buckle up. Because what I'm about to break down for you, this goes so much deeper than one crazy Truth Social post. This is about the erosion of everything we thought we knew about American democracy. This is about a president who has now targeted over 470 people and institutions for retribution. This is about whether or not Congress has the spine to do anything about it. And honestly, I'm not sure they do. But let's get into it. Let's talk about what actually happened, what these Democrats really said on why Trump responded the way he did, and what comes next. Because this story, it's not going away, and neither is the threat. All right, let me take you back a few days. Because to really understand what's happening here, you need to know the full context. So on November 18th, 2025, 6 Democratic lawmakers put out a video. These weren't just random members of Congress. These were people with serious military and intelligence credentials. We're talking about veterans, former intelligence officers, people who actually served this country in uniform. And what did they say in this video? They reminded service members, active duty military personnel, that they have a constitutional obligation to refuse unlawful orders. That's it. That's literally the whole thing. They said, hey, if someone in your chain of command tells you to do something that violates the Constitution, you don't have to do it. In fact, you're required not to do it. That's the law. That's what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says. That's what every recruit learns in basic training. This is not controversial. This is not radical. This is military 101, but Trump, he didn't see it that way. And on November 20th, just 2 days later, he went on Truth Social and he absolutely lost it. He called their video, and again, I'm quoting directly here, seditious behavior, punishable by death. He said these 6 Democrats were traitors. He said they should be arrested and put on trial. And then, because that apparently wasn't unhinged enough, he started sharing and amplifying posts from his supporters that said these lawmakers should be hanged. Can you believe this? This is the president. This is the person who controls the military, the person who controls the Justice Department, the person who has the power to actually arrest people and put them on trial. And he's out here saying members of Congress deserve to die. Now look, let me be really clear about something. Sedition is a real crime. It's in the federal code. It's defined as conspiring to overthrow the government or to use force against the United States. But here's the thing. Nothing these Democrats did comes anywhere close to meeting that definition. They made a video about following the law. That's not sedition. That's civic education. So when Trump throws around words like sedition and treason and punishable by death, he's not making a legal argument. He's making a threat. He's using the language of violence to intimidate and silence his political opponents. And the Democrats on Capitol Hill, they understand exactly what's happening. Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, put out a statement with his leadership team calling Trump's posts, and I'm quoting, disgusting and dangerous death threats against members of Congress. They didn't mince words. They said this was a direct threat to the safety of elected officials and their families. They contacted the House Sergeant at Arms. They reached out to the Capitol Police. They're taking this seriously because they know the stakes. And honestly, they should be scared. Because Trump's words have consequences. Remember January 6th? Remember when Trump told his supporters that the election was stolen, that they needed to fight like hell, and then a mob stormed the Capitol and tried to hang Mike Pence? That happened. That actually happened. People died that day. Police officers were beaten. Lawmakers had to hide in bunkers. And it all started with Trump's words. So, when he's out here calling Democrats traitors who deserve death, when he's amplifying posts about hanging members of Congress, this isn't just rhetoric. This is incitement. This is the kind of language that gets people killed, and the Democrats know it. That's why they're pushing back so hard. Representative Al Green, he's the congressman from Texas who has filed impeachment articles against Trump before, and he's doing it again. He announced that he's going to bring new articles of impeachment before the Christmas recess. And here's what he said. He said this is a litmus test. This is the moment where every member of Congress has to decide where they stand. Do they support democracy, or do they support a president who threatens to execute his political opponents? Because that's really what it comes down to. Now, let me be honest with you. The Republican-led House is almost certainly not going to vote for impeachment. We've seen this before. Trump has been impeached twice already, once for the Ukraine scandal, once for January 6th, and both times the Senate Republicans protected him. So nobody is expecting a conviction. Nobody is expecting Trump to actually be removed from office over this. But that doesn't mean it doesn't matter. Because here's the thing most people miss about impeachment. It's not just about removal, it's about accountability. It's about putting members of Congress on record. It's about making them vote and say, yes, I think this behavior is acceptable, or no, I think this behavior is impeachable. And those votes matter. Those votes will follow these lawmakers for the rest of their careers. Those votes will be in the history books. So when Al Green files his impeachment articles, he's forcing a choice. He's saying, you can't hide from this. You can't pretend it didn't happen. You have to take a stand. And that's uncomfortable for a lot of Republicans, because deep down, a lot of them know this is wrong. They know you can't have a president threatening to execute members of Congress. They know this is dangerous. They know this undermines everything we're supposed to stand for. But they're scared. They're scared of Trump's base. They're scared of getting primaried. They're scared of the backlash. So they stay quiet. Or they make excuses. Or they try to spin it. And speaking of spin, let me tell you what some Republicans are actually saying about this. Some of them are claiming that Trump was just defining the crime of sedition, that he wasn't actually threatening anyone, that he was just explaining what the law says. Come on, are you serious right now? The man said punishable by death in all caps. He called them traitors. He shared posts about hanging them. That's not a legal lecture. That's a threat. But this is what they do. This is how they normalize everything. Every time Trump says something outrageous, every time he crosses a line, his defenders rush in to explain that we're all just overreacting, that we're taking it too seriously, that we don't understand what he really meant. And meanwhile, the threats keep escalating. The rhetoric keeps getting more violent, and the people in his crosshairs keep getting less safe. This is dangerous, and if we keep letting it slide, if we keep pretending it's normal, then we're complicit, all of us. All right, so let's break this down. Let's talk about what this really means and why it matters so much. First, the obvious point. We have a sitting president who just threatened 6 members of Congress with death. That alone should be disqualifying. That alone should be front-page news everywhere for weeks. But in this political environment, it's just another Tuesday. And that's terrifying, because the normalization of this kind of rhetoric is exactly how democracies die. Think about it. If a president can say that his political opponents deserve to be executed and nothing happens, then what's the limit? What can't he say? What can't he do? And this isn't the first time Trump has used this kind of language. This is a pattern. He's been threatening and intimidating people for years. He's called journalists enemies of the people. He's attacked judges who ruled against him. He's gone after prosecutors investigating him. He's targeted anyone and everyone who dares to stand in his way. According to Reuters, Trump's campaign of retribution has now targeted at least 470 people and institutions. 470. That includes investigations, firings, legal action, you name it. If you've ever crossed Trump, if you've ever criticized him publicly, there's a good chance you're on that list. And that's not normal. That's not how democracy works. That's how authoritarianism works. So, when Democrats say this behavior is impeachable, they're not exaggerating. They're describing exactly what the founders had in mind when they wrote the impeachment clause into the Constitution. The founders were terrified of exactly this kind of president. They knew that power corrupts. They knew that some leaders would try to use their position to destroy their enemies and silence dissent. And they gave Congress the power to remove a president precisely for moments like this. But here's the problem. That power only works if Congress is willing to use it. And right now, with Republicans controlling the House, there's no political will to hold Trump accountable. So what happens next? Well, Al Green is going to file his impeachment articles. Democrats are going to make a lot of noise. There will be press conferences and statements and probably some hearings. The targeted lawmakers will speak out about the threats they're receiving. Capitol Police will increase security. But in terms of actual consequences for Trump, probably nothing. At least not in the short term. And that's the frustrating part. That's the part that makes people want to throw their hands up and give up on the whole system. But here's what I want you to understand. Even if Trump doesn't get removed from office, even if Republicans protect him again, this still matters. Because every time we document this behavior, every time we put it on the record, every time we force lawmakers to take a position, we're building the case. We're creating a historical record. We're making sure that future generations understand exactly what happened and who was responsible. And more importantly, we're letting the American people see the truth. Because at the end of the day, voters have the final say. And if enough people see this behavior for what it is, if enough people understand how dangerous it is, then maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance to course correct. But that only happens if we pay attention. That only happens if we don't let this get normalized. That only happens if we keep talking about it and keep demanding accountability. So yeah, Congress probably isn't going to remove Trump over this. But that doesn't mean we should be silent. That doesn't mean we should accept it. That doesn't mean we should pretend it's okay. Because it's not okay. It's not normal. And it shouldn't be acceptable in any democracy, let alone the oldest democracy in the world. So here's where we are. The president is threatening lawmakers with death. Democrats are calling for impeachment. Republicans are making excuses. And the rest of us are left wondering, how much further can this possibly go? The answer, I don't know, but I do know that what happens next depends on all of us. It depends on whether we choose to pay attention or look away. It depends on whether we demand accountability or accept chaos. It depends on whether we remember what democracy is supposed to look like or let it slip away piece by piece. This isn't just about Trump. This isn't just about Democrats and Republicans. This is about the kind of country we want to live in. This is about whether we're willing to tolerate a president who uses the language of execution against his political opponents. And right now, in this moment, that choice is in front of us, every single one of us. So stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The fight is just getting started, and what happens in the coming weeks, it could define American politics for a generation. I'll see you in the next one.